You know those moments where someone crosses a line over something so small, but somehow it feels unbelievably personal? Well, that's exactly what happened to me in my college dorm. Someone decided they were entitled to my dryer, ruined every piece of clothing I owned, and unknowingly volunteered to become the most orange-smelling person on campus. If you've ever had someone disrespect your time, your belongings, or simply assume they could get away with it, you're going to love this story. Hit that like button, subscribe for more satisfying Reddit revenge stories, and let's jump into one of the pettiest and, strangely, most satisfying acts of dorm justice you'll ever hear. A few years ago, I was a sophomore at Westridge University, living in one of those old brick dorm buildings that looked charming from the outside, but felt like controlled chaos on the inside. My name's Ethan, and like every other broke college student, I had learned one important lesson very quickly. Dorm laundry wasn't just laundry, it was survival. There were only 4 washers and 4 dryers for nearly 200 students. Every Sunday, the laundry room turned into a battlefield. People hovered over machines like vultures, waiting for one to free up. Some students were patient. Others believed the world revolved around them. I wasn't one of those people. The dryers weren't cheap, and every cycle cost money I couldn't afford to waste. So I developed a system. I'd set the timer on my phone, a few minutes before the cycle ended, so I could arrive early, grab my clothes immediately, and free the machine for the next person. Simple, respectful, efficient. That Sunday afternoon, everything seemed perfectly normal. I'd started my laundry after lunch, grabbed a tiny bag of snack-sized Doritos from the vending machine, and headed back to my room to study while my clothes dried. When my alarm buzzed, I smiled. Perfect timing. I walked downstairs feeling oddly proud of myself for actually being responsible for once. As I rounded the corner into the laundry room, I immediately knew something wasn't right. My dryer door stood wide open. For a second, I wondered if I'd mixed up the machine. Then I saw my clothes. Someone had pulled every shirt, pair of jeans, towel, and sock out before the dryer had even finished. They weren't folded. They weren't stacked neatly. They'd simply been dumped onto one of the folding tables like trash. My stomach tightened. Seriously? Who does that? I walked over, hoping maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked. Then I noticed the dark puddle spreading across the table. Soda. Someone had apparently left an open cup there. My nearly dry clothes had soaked it up like sponges. I picked up one of my favorite hoodies. It was damp, sticky. It smelled exactly like warm Pepsi. I squeezed the sleeve and actually watched brown drops fall onto the floor. I just stood there staring. All that time, all that money, gone. I'd have to wash everything again. Behind me, another dryer hummed quietly. Inside were someone else's clothes, freshly drying. Whoever had stolen my machine clearly hadn't bothered waiting another 2 minutes. They'd simply decided their schedule mattered more than mine. Normally, I avoid conflict. I'm not the kind of person who screams at strangers. I'm definitely not someone who destroys other people's property. But standing there holding a Pepsi-soaked hoodie, something inside me snapped. Not with rage, with creativity. I looked down at the unopened snack-sized bag of Doritos still sitting in my hoodie pocket. Then I looked at the running dryer. An idea appeared so quickly it almost made me laugh. Educational pettiness. No permanent damage. Just a memorable lesson. I glanced around. Nobody. The hallway outside was empty. The lounge nearby had students watching television, completely oblivious. My heart pounded as I quietly opened the dryer door. Warm air rushed into my face. Inside sat neatly drying clothes, mostly light-colored shirts, jeans, sweatshirts. Without overthinking it, I tore open the Doritos bag. Crunch. Orange chips spilled across the clothing. Every last crumb. I even gave the bag one final shake until the orange seasoning dust floated into the drum like tiny clouds. Then I gently closed the dryer door. Press start. High heat. The machine rumbled back to life. Round and round. The chips disappeared into the tumbling clothes. I stepped away before anyone could notice. Was it immature? Absolutely. Was I smiling? Also absolutely. Instead of leaving, I wandered into the student lounge across the hall. My friend Marcus looked over from the couch. Dude, why are you grinning like you just robbed a bank? I shrugged. I may have conducted a science experiment. He laughed. I don't even want to know. Oh, trust me. You'll know. About 20 minutes later, the dryer stopped. The room grew strangely quiet. A girl I'd never seen before marched confidently into the laundry room, carrying an empty basket. She looked like the type who expected everything to happen on her schedule. Perfect makeup, designer sneakers, phone glued to her ear. She opened the dryer. There was silence. Then, what the heck? Her voice echoed through the hallway. Students looked up. She started pulling clothes out one piece at a time. Every shirt carried bright orange streaks. Every sweatshirt smelled like heated cheese seasoning. Tiny chip crumbs clung stubbornly to the fabric. The basket slowly filled with what looked less like laundry and more like someone had emptied a convenience store snack aisle into it. She held up a white t-shirt covered in orange smears. No, No. She shook it violently. More crumbs fell onto the floor. The expression on her face shifted from confusion to disbelief to absolute fury. Marcus looked toward the laundry room. Dude, I nodded. Science experiment. He burst into laughter so hard, he nearly dropped his drink. The girls stormed around demanding to know who had done it. Nobody answered. Most people simply stared. A few quietly smiled. One student even whispered, "Guess somebody shouldn't have touched another person's laundry." She glared around the room, but couldn't prove anything. What was she going to say? I ruined someone else's laundry first. Not exactly a winning argument. Eventually, she stuffed the orange streak, clothes back into her basket, and stomped upstairs, leaving a trail of crushed Dorito crumbs behind her. The entire lounge stayed quiet for about 5 seconds. Then almost everyone started laughing, not because someone else's laundry was ruined, but because everyone living in that dorm had experienced the same disrespect before. For once, the person who thought the rules didn't apply to them had become the lesson instead. I quietly gathered my Pepsi-soaked clothes, sighed, and started another wash cycle. It cost me extra money. It wasted another hour of my day. But somehow, watching someone carry away an entire basket of Dorito scented clothes made the inconvenience hurt a whole lot less. Years later, I still think about that afternoon whenever I pass a laundromat. Would I do it again? Honestly, probably not. College has a funny way of making tiny problems feel enormous. But I also can't pretend I regret it. Sometimes people ignore basic respect because they've never faced consequences. That afternoon, consequences tasted like nacho cheese. Looking back, I don't think revenge fixed the situation. My clothes were still soaked in soda, and I still had to spend more money rewashing everything. But for one glorious moment, the universe felt balanced again. Sometimes karma doesn't arrive on its own. Sometimes it just needs a little orange seasoning. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more unbelievable Reddit revenge stories every week. And tell us in the comments, what's the pettiest revenge you've ever witnessed? Or maybe even pulled off yourself? We'll see you in the next story.
We work hard to make videos for your entertainment. At the very least, you should comment on your choice.